It is possible that Christ can be manifesting himself to you and I right now, and we're not experiencing the effects of that manifestation. And how sad is that? Well, if we look at Luke chapter 24, where the story starts out with how Christ rose again, and he was crucified and he rose again, and it also mentioned a number of characters in the story, but one of the characters I want to talk about right now is these two men who were walking. And so they were actually believers as well, and they came to witness the crucifixion of Christ. And so while they were walking back to their hometown, Christ appeared to them, and they were talking, and Christ said to them, you know, what are you guys talking about? And they were like, are you the only stranger here? Are you a stranger here? I mean, everybody knows what went on. There's this man, Jesus of Nazareth, and we thought that he would have been the Christ, like a prophet, but he was crucified. And throughout the journey, they were having this conversation with Christ, and Christ was expounding to them about, from about himself, basically from Moses right through the prophets, to and so on. And so they were talking, and when they got to their destination, it appears Christ made it look as if he was gonna go further. But and then they kind of suggested to him that stay a little while with us, and it was then that Christ opened their eyes, and in verse 31 says, and their eyes were open, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. So while because they constrained him and invited him to eat with them, and just to stay a little longer with them, maybe rest a little while. After that, he opened their eyes, and they recognized him. So all along, while they were journeying, and they were having this wonderful conversation, they did not recognize him. The same man that they were talking about, they did not recognize him. He was with them physically, and they did not recognize him because their concern was about, oh, we can't believe he's dead. We can't believe he's dead. The thought, just the very mere thought about him being risen again, even though he told his disciples and many other followers, because guess what? Even the thief on the cross, he says, when you go in your kingdom, remember me. It means the thief on the cross had an idea about his resurrection, knowing that he is gonna die with us on this cross, but he's gonna rise again, and when he rises again, I want him to remember me. And so Christ was with them walking, and we don't know how long this journey was. But if we can imagine that back in those days, they didn't have cars and airplanes and motorbikes and so on, so it must have been quite a distance, right? And so Christ was with them walking physically. Just picture that in your mind. Walking with them physically, but them not seeing him. Not, when I say not seeing him, not knowing who he was, who was walking with them. And so Christ, sometimes he is manifesting himself to us. Maybe not physically like with these two men, but in different circumstances, in different ways. But we're not seeing it because our hearts are in the wrong place, because we're not expecting him to. So because they were not expecting him, to rise again. No. So when he manifested himself to them, they did not recognize him. They did not, because they did not expect him to. And sometimes we don't expect Christ to show up in our circumstances as well. We're driving on the road, and it's a near miss accident. And instead of saying, God, I thank you, We praise our own driving skill because we're not expecting Christ to show up at that moment and save our life. And so we go through life with the expectation of not beholding him. They did not expect to behold him. They did not expect to see him again because they saw him hang on that cross and died. So they were not expecting to behold him. And it is the same way sometimes we're not expecting to behold Christ in our experience. And so because we're not expecting to behold him, even when he's right in front of us, even when he's manifesting himself to us, we can't see him. And so Christ understands. He understands our humanity. He understands our weaknesses. He understands how frail we are. And so our job is to ask God, say right now, Christ, open my eyes. Open my eyes so I can behold you. There's a song that says, open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart because I want to see you. And when Christ opened the eyes of our hearts, sometimes we'll see the things that Christ is moving in our lives and we'll be shocked and amazed. And then we'll be able to live with an attitude of praise and seeing God in every aspect of our lives. If the eyes of our hearts are open to him. And we can't open them by ourselves, but we can ask him to. So it is my prayer. And I pray and I hope that it is your prayer as well, that Christ open the eyes of your heart so all of us as believers can behold his glory and experience his love and richness in our lives. So until next time, take care.